Is it just me, or is it a crazy time to be a human being right now? Between everything that's going on, you can't really be blamed for relying heavily on escapist entertainment these days. There's nothing better right now than delving into your favorite comic books and just imagining how nice it would be to escape to Superman's universe and live there, even just for a while. Unless, of course, you were still a regular person in Superman's universe. With all those villains running around, it's not exactly a safe place to be a civilian. Occasionally, these baddies really cross the line. While it's all part and parcel of being a super scoundrel to terrorize ordinary people, the rogues on this list really went over the top. A lot of the following misdeeds are properly evil and thoroughly messed up, so, you've been warned. Anyhow, with that in mind, I'm Will for What Culture, and here are the 10 worst things comic villains have done to regular people. 10. Joker goes after the Gordon women. Batman. Joker's history of torturing Barbara Gordon's Batgirl is well documented at this point. However, she's not the only one of the Gordon gals that he's targeted over his long reign as the Clown Prince of Crime. For example, there's the time he kidnaps Barbara's mother, tying her to a chair with a bomb underneath it in the middle of a roller disco. Then there's the time Joker kidnaps every baby in Gotham. When Sarah Essen Gordon, Batgirl's stepmother, discovers where he's hiding the newborns, he rewards her for this bravery with a bullet through the head. Alongside the infamous time in The Killing Joke where he paralyzes and violates Barbara, Joker seems to have a real beef with any woman related to Commissioner Jim Gordon. Joker couldn't care less about the women he's physically attacking, murdering, or permanently harming. It's all in the name of psychologically torturing the Great Commissioner. 9. Hazel and Cha-Cha ask for a recipe. The Umbrella Academy. Hazel and Cha-Cha, the time-traveling hitmen with a disturbingly cheery aesthetic, make an explosive debut in the second issue of the Umbrella Academy Dallas. Sitting in a diner, eating apple pie through their cartoonish bear and dog masks, they enthusiastically compliment the delicious pastry. They ask the server if they could have the recipe. Sure, she's a little put off by their weird attire, but they're not really doing anything wrong. Everything is fine. Hearing the voices of the happy customers, the pastry chef walks over to join in on the fun. He jokingly refuses to give away his secret ingredients, telling them, quote, "Once had a man come all the way from Barcelona trying to get the recipe, offered me $5,000 for it. I tells him, you'd have to chop off my arms and legs to get that out of me." This is when things stop being okay. The next we see of the pastry chef, he's tied to a chair, barely alive, and missing all 4 of his limbs. He finally tells Hazel and Cha-Cha the secret to his lovely apple pie, but they've already forgotten that they asked him. They're just happy to be brutally torturing an innocent man. 8. Red Mist becomes the mother effer. Kick-Ass 2. Red Mist, the secondary villain of the original Kick-Ass story, made a lot of sense as a character. He represented the other side of the coin that was Kick-Ass. Dave was a middle-class teenager who wanted to become a superhero out of a sense of adventure and a desire to do good. Chris, on the other hand, was the son of an uber-wealthy mob boss who became a villain to impress his criminal dad. In the end, he was nothing more than a cowardly child playing dress-up. In Kick-Ass 2, however, Red Mist becomes the mother effer. Well, not the mother effer, but we're on YouTube. And in doing so, he goes from scared poser to unbelievably nasty maniac. While Red Mist struggled to even hold up a gun without shaking in terror, the mother effer shoots down innocent children and sexually assaults strangers without a second thought or even a hint of remorse. He's almost too villainous, knowing that he will always choose to do the most evil thing possible can end up robbing a lot of his moments of any tension. For the follow-up to a comic that expertly portrayed the real-world consequences of becoming a superhero, Kick-Ass 2 is shockingly lax at showing any long-lasting consequences to the scenarios Miller creates. 7. Red Skull recreates humanity in his image. Captain America: The End. What if a villain went after every regular person in the world? When Red Skull does just this in Captain America: The End, Earth's entire population comes out looking decidedly, irregular. After the Red Skull releases a deadly mist into the atmosphere, a virus infects the population. Everyone infected mutates into a Red Skull lookalike, all thinking the same thought through their hive minds: kill Captain America. After battling them for years, Cap makes a shocking realization that the only thing stopping the Red Skullified citizens of the New World from existing peacefully is him. If they could only satisfy their constant urge to murder the Star-Spangled Man with a plan, they could move on and find another purpose, potentially building a new civilization. Thankfully though, he comes to a second, less shocking discovery. His super soldier serum infused blood is the cure that can turn the Red Skulls back into humans. He rolls up his sleeves and begins to donate blood. 6. Leaking an assistant's holographic sex tape. Number 1 with a bullet. Number 1 with a Bullet is a futuristic science fiction story that, scarily, feels less futuristic and less fictional with every passing day. Described as a stalker story at heart with a Black Mirror feel, it follows Nash Huang, personal assistant to the chat show host Jad Davies and semi-celebrity in her own right. Unfortunately for the pair, the relationship between Nash and Jad goes far beyond that of professional, particularly after the introduction of contact lenses that can play video, augment reality, and record footage. After a fling with her boss at the office Christmas party, Nash has no idea that the entire ordeal was recorded on the iris shutter lens. When a mysterious villain leaks the footage, her life is changed forever. Aside from the unwelcome media attention, loss of her job, and public shaming that Nash goes through, there's also a clingy, superfan, and ever-growing pile of dead bodies to deal with. Personal privacy is no longer an option for this regular person, and honestly, that's one of the worst things you can have taken from you. 5. Light forces Naomi to commit suicide. Death Note. When Light Yagami stumbles across the Death Note, a mysterious book with otherworldly powers, he swears to use it for good. Well, his own twisted idea of what he believes to be good, at least. The Death Note has the power to kill any person whose name is written into its pages, if the writer is picturing their face at the time. Light uses this power on his campaign to kill criminals, believing he can make the world a better place if he eradicates every do-badder on the planet. As morally skewed as this is, at least we can rest easy knowing that he would never kill an innocent person, right? Wrong. Naomi Mizora is among the most likable characters in the entire Death Note series. An FBI agent, she begins to investigate the Death Note killings after her fiancé falls victim to them, and she comes so close to working it out, finally wiping the smug smile off Light's annoying face once and for all. When Light realizes how close Naomi is to discovering the truth, he jumps through hoops in order to gain her trust and learn her name. The moment when he emotionally manipulates her into handing over her ID card is one of the most crushing blows in all of comics, made only worse by the fact that her body is never discovered after her name is written in the Death Note. 4. The super rich are super screwed. Renato Jones, the 1%. Renato Jones, also known as the Freelancer, is a vigilante who has devoted his life to one mission: murdering rich people. Now, you might think this is a bit hypocritical, seeing as he's wealthy enough to put Bruce Wayne to shame. This goes straight out of the window, however, when you discover exactly what the Freelancer's elite targets are getting up to in their spare time. The first time we meet Renato, he is paying a visit to a friend's private yacht, with the word friend firmly put in quotation marks. We soon learn that this friend is the kind of man who exploits immigrants, paying them well below minimum wage, firing them over trivial details, describing them as, quote, not even people, and occasionally murdering them without reproach. It isn't long before Renato sticks a gun in the guy's mouth and tells him to choke on this. However, we don't see the full extent of the super rich's super screwed upness until Renato attends a sex party exclusively for the elite. But some of the off-menu items available as part of this party's platter are truly harrowing. Platinum members of this deranged orgy club can take advantage of a room full of kidnapped children. Knowing this, it's never been more satisfying to watch a man murder a party full of people. 3. The Lord Weird Slough Feg eats a third of healthy children. 2000 AD. Of all the regular people in this regular world of ours, who would you say is the least deserving to be eaten alive by a horrifying deity who lives in a cave? It would be best to keep children out of it altogether. After all, they've got their entire lives ahead of them and stand the least chance of being able to defend themselves. Unfortunately, this is exactly what the Lord Weird Slough Feg demands. Every 6 years, if the local villagers want a good yield of crops, they must sacrifice a third of their healthy children to him. The Droon Lords covered up this horrific abuse of power by engaging in philanthropy. Offering food, shelter, and education to orphans sounds like a pretty sweet deal, until you realize that it's all a ruse to lure those orphans into their clutches and fatten them up for the kill. 2. The government makes sex legally boring. Safe sex. Tina Horn's Safe Sex, written SFSX, imagines a world in which the government has criminalized the one human right we thought they could never touch, the right to enjoy a jolly good bit of How's Your Father. Under these new laws, expressing sexuality is expressly forbidden. Sex is only permitted between a married couple, which must consist of one male and one female, and all sexual activity between them must be logged, filed, and put into paperwork within 24 hours. If your mandatory Fitbit detects a love-making session that goes unfiled, it could mean permanent damage to your purity score. I think we can all agree that safe sex sounds like a pretty lame dystopia to be a regular person in. 1. Ozymandias kills millions to save billions. Watchmen. Although it has grown to be one of the most famous twists in comic book history, it was impossible for readers to ever predict the superhero Ozymandias' master plan, teleporting a giant, genetically modified squid into the middle of New York City, causing a huge explosion that kills millions of innocent people, and then blaming the whole thing on aliens. It was, frankly, unexpected. Ozymandias' justification for this mass slaughter has had Watchmen fans arguing for decades. His idea was that unless he could unite all the nations of the world and end the Cold War, all-out nuclear apocalypse was inevitable. However, if we all thought we were under attack from alien squid monsters, surely the governments of the world would put aside their petty differences and prepare to fight a greater threat. Those 3 million regular New Yorkers had to die so that billions of people around the world could live. And after all, there is one fatal flaw to any argument that defends Ozymandias. We live in a world where New York wasn't attacked by a giant squid, yet we still managed to avoid nuclear Armageddon without his help. Perhaps the regular people of the world are smarter than the smartest man on the planet gave them credit for. And there you have it, folks, the 10 worst things comic villains have ever done to regular people. Feel free to drop this video a like if you enjoyed it, and drop me a follow on Twitter at YouSlyDawgU. I'm Will for What Culture, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.